This summer, add some jumps and flips to your twists and turns. Get to the ultimate stunt show at Kings Island with 3 shows daily now through August 20th. Watch in awe as performers face the Wheel of Destiny, defy gravity on the motorcycle high wire above the Royal Fountain, and so much more. All just steps away from thrilling coaster rides like Mystic Timbers. But hurry, because the stunts don't last forever. Get your tickets now at the lowest price of the season online at visitkingsisland.com.
Here comes success. Here comes success. Over my hill. Over my hill. Here comes
All right,
success.
it is time for our CEO Spotlight, which is brought to you by Vitucci and Associates. Don't invest and forget.com/KGO. And joining me today, we have Mark Bowser. He is president and CEO of Empowering Enterprises, Inc. And by the way, quite the author as well. To have worked with Zig Ziglar, I just have to say, Mark, that's always a huge feather in the cap.
Oh, that absolutely is. Mr. Ziegler was a wonderful, wonderful man. And let me just, first, thank you for having me on the show. Let me just say about Zig, what you saw on stage, that's Zig. That was Zig. You know, there's so many people who they fake it when they're in one place and are different in real life. Well, Zig was genuine everywhere he was. So if you heard him on tape, saw him on stage, you saw the real deal.
So, all right. So you, as I understand it, you're a little bit in his footsteps, right? You help people out. You work and help companies and individuals in terms of training and sales. Tell me a little bit more about what you do with Empowering Enterprises.
Sure. What we do, Ethan, is we're a training and development company. And so to put it in a simple way, is I'm a corporate trainer. And so a company will actually hire me to come in and work with their sales team, for example, or with their leadership team. And whatever challenge that they're having is I help them solve that particular challenge. So I focus primarily on what's called an on-site training, where Zig did a lot of the public seminars, and I do some of those as well. But primarily, I go in and I'll work with a sales team of maybe 20 people or a leadership team of 8 people and help them solve whatever challenge they have so they can begin to succeed in the next 6 months or so.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, look, anytime you can help somebody be more successful, how do you not love doing that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I love helping people. So you're helping somebody else be more successful in various forms. All right, so Mark,
Oh, absolutely.
So you've worked with a lot of companies. Now, often I ask CEOs in CEO Spotlight, like, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made, you know, building a company, being a CEO, whatever your actions are. I want to ask it a little differently of you then, Mark, since you have worked with so many companies as clients, right? They have brought you in to help them out. What can I learn from your experience in terms of like a huge mistake? Because I'm going to follow it up with the positive side. But what do you look at and go, oh man, this was one of the worst things I've ever seen somebody do?
I think so that there's 2 key areas that individuals as well as companies make, and they make it over and over again. The first one is they don't train leadership. Leadership is the most important part of any team, of any organization, whether we're talking about a Fortune 500 or we're talking about a mom and pop shop down the street. Leadership is the most important because everything rises and falls on that leadership, as Maxwell says, and he's absolutely right. The second mistake that I see people make is they put all their eggs in one basket. And I have to be honest with you, Ethan, I made that mistake years ago. I put all my eggs in one basket. And then when that basket dried up, well, then I'm kind of scrounging to get more clients. And so sometimes you want the big gig, and you get the big gig, and that gig keeps you busy for 2, 3, maybe 5 years, and you're thrilled, and life is wonderful, full of gravy. And then all of a sudden, it becomes the Sahara Desert. And then what do you do? Well, that's the situation I was in many, many, many years ago. And so since then, I have preached to myself as well as anybody I can that you have to diversify. You have to make sure that your leadership is focused on diversification and that your leadership is focused on growth, not only of business, but growth of their individuals. Because a company grows when their people grow.
All right, Mark Bowser.
Not the other way around.
CEO of Empowering Enterprises, is joining me on the phone right now for our CEO Spotlight. That's interesting, Mark, because I've heard a number of CEOs who have come on the show. It's interesting that you bring up, say, to only focus on the one thing that you're good at, right? Make sure that you're really, really good at that before you try and diversify. Whereas you're saying something like my grandfather taught me, which was don't tie your cart to one horse.
Right. It's now what I'm saying. I'm not saying go totally outside of your comfort area. For example, as a corporate trainer, I'm not going to, as who focuses on sales and leadership and communication, I'm not going to go train somebody on, let's say, OSHA requirements, because I would be the worst one they'd ever have. And so what I'm meaning is, if you get the one big client in your area of expertise who's going to fill your bucket year after year, don't focus just on that one bucket. For example, there are a lot of companies who every once in a while, they find that a Walmart's coming to town. So they're, hey, I'm going to rent the space right next to Walmart. Well, they don't realize that Walmart doesn't always buy that space. They lease that space so that if an opportunity opens up and they want to put a super Walmart 3 miles down the road, that they can get out quick. Well, the person who put their cart right there just to Walmart to that one horse, all of a sudden the horse leaves and the cart stays put.
Yeah,
it's that same type of thing. Is you stay within your area of expertise from a leadership or a business standpoint, but you diversify out to maybe it's different markets that use something similar. And so, like, for example, my family also owns a publishing house, and we've focused for years since the 1950s on the funeral industry side of the publishing. Well, now we're diversifying out. We're taking our areas of expertise with design and publishing, and we're moving it out into other areas of publishing. So we're staying with our expertise, but we're diversifying out into other markets.
That makes total sense to me.
So if one dries up, we got more fruit if one dries up, and that's the key.
All right, so Mark Bowser is joining me, President and CEO of Empowering Enterprises, for our CEO Spotlight. So let's go back now. So we talked about training leadership, and we've talked about things like diversifying, right? And so let's say a young person comes up to you. They just finished business school, and they have this amazing business idea. And Mark, if you go back and look at some of the best things that you have ever done, right, in terms of building the business, what's that key piece of advice that you would tell this young person starting a business? What's like the best thing you've ever done?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is don't give up your day job. And so many times when kids get out of college and so forth, or somebody comes up with a great idea, and it is a good idea, that they decide to, hey, I am going to quit my job and I'm going full-time tomorrow. Well, Jim Rohn used to talk about the magic of part-time. And there is a magic to it, that if you work on that dream, on that idea, part-time, maybe 2 or 3 hours a day in the evening, and then eventually you can take that full-time. But why put extra pressure on yourself? Why put extra pressure on your family if you're married and have kids when that financial crunch begins to hurt you because you didn't go part-time with your dream at first? So that's the first thing I would advise them to do. And the second thing it would be is this: get all the education you can on that idea. It's probably not brand spanking new. There's probably somebody who did something similar way back. Go to the library, go to Amazon.com, start trying to figure out the answers to that dream of how to get there quicker. Don't make the same mistake that somebody before you made. I want, for example, young speakers to learn how to grow their business by learning from my failures. I've learned from some of Mr. Ziegler's failures and so forth, so we can actually move forward instead of making the same mistakes over and over again, where we could have learned from somebody else's mistakes and grow with their success.
Well, that's interesting. So you talk about learning from somebody else's mistakes, and as you were saying that, I was like, well, maybe, another way of looking at that as well is why not find a mentor as well, Mark? Yeah, you talk about Zig Ziglar, right? He was, in a way, that's a mentor to you. So how about finding a mentor in your area of what you want to develop?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in mentorship, and I think that helps shorten the distance. One of my big mentors as I first started in speaking was Scott McCain, who's one of the best of the best, one of our elder statesmen in the speaking industry. And he took me under his wing when I didn't know anything and taught me. And then Mr. Ziegler was another person that even to this day, who, even though he's passed away, his work out there can also be a mentor. So if somebody is listening out there and they just don't know who to get them to be a mentor to them, or they don't have that opportunity, you can have that opportunity by listening to people like Zig Ziglar or Scott McCain or even some of my material and so forth, because you can learn just right there from that material. It's not the same as having the person sitting right next to you, but it's the next best thing.
It's so funny that you mentioned Scott McCain, because one of my mentors is actually Larry Wingett, and those guys are like really close friends.
Oh, yeah. They are. Larry's great.
Oh, yeah. Definitely love Larry. All right. Well, fantastic. This was great to talk to you. CEO Spotlight, Mark Bowser, President and CEO of Empowering Enterprises. Hey, Mark, if somebody wants to learn more about you and what you offer, how would they find you?
Well, the best way is just to go to my website, which is markbowser.com, and that's MarkBowser.com. They can also find my books and so forth on Amazon.com, such as Sales Success, which I did write with Mr. Ziegler, and that's the best way to find me.
Fantastic. Mark Bowser, CEO, President, Empowering Enterprises. Mark, thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ethan.
All right, fantastic. And this CEO Spotlight, again, brought to you by Vitucci and Associates, don'tinvestandforget.com/KGO. And I've got Not the Onion up next, and one just popped across my Twitter feed. I can't wait to share it.
Now, the summer pretzel dog is so great because you get two of your favorite ballpark foods in one.
Right. I got hot dogs on a pretzel bun here. Get your pretzel dogs.
Oh, over here. I'll take one.
Okay, one pretzel dog for the guy with the little boy glove.
Well, it's all I had, so.
You know, they use regulation-sized baseballs here. Yeah, that ball's gonna dwarf that mitt.
The summer's biggest hit is the premium pretzel dog. This is how you Sonic. For a limited time, only at participating Sonic drive-ins.